All right. Hey, folks, welcome to the June 4th, 2024 SIG Windows community meeting. This is a recorded meeting which will be uploaded to YouTube. So please adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct, which basically translates to be nice and kind to everyone. All right. So Mark, James, Ameem, any announcements today?
I think enhancement freeze is coming up, so we should maybe do a quick discussion, see if we're going to progress any enhancements. Let me check when the exact date is.
It's the 14th. I put it in the template instead of the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
I see it now. Okay, I got it. In fact, I was just thinking about this. The only thing I can think about is the one that Kirtana was started the last time. I'm guessing that is still an alpha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's still working through the implementation on the container D side. So I don't know the exact status of that, but
Okay.
I know that's had a lot of back and forth on how it actually gets implemented in container D. So
Yeah, so I don't know if you're tracking anything else. With the node lock stuff, I'm not doing anything for this release. Gonna wait for the next release for it to see if we can move it to stable.
Yeah, that's all I'm aware of. I think the CRI stuff that Katana was working on. And then we can see, like, there's some more work being done. Like, I think James is going to present the CPU manager, and hopefully that won't require a cap, but you never know.
Okay, sounds good. All right. I don't see any new contributors here at the moment. So if anybody here wants to briefly introduce themselves, I'll pause for a couple of seconds. It's totally optional.
Hello, Arvind. I can go. Yeah, this is my first time here. Hey, James. Hey, Mark. I'm just listening in, trying to get a feel for how these meetings run. Bit of background. I not exactly cross-sectional to this area, but I'm working on enabling Hyper-V containers and fixing bugs on test grid for stuff. So I thought it might be useful for me to drop in and learn how all of this goes.
Oh, awesome, Ritika. Welcome on board. I'm assuming you're from Microsoft?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome on board. Feel free to start conversations on Slack if you need anything from us, or add an item to the agenda. The minute, I think if you join the SIG Windows mailing list, you're going to be able to edit the doc. If not, you'll be able to add a comment and then we can approve it. But
Okay.
welcome on board. Happy to have more folks attend this meeting.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, so let's get going with the rest of the agenda. The kubeproxy image revert, I'm guessing that's either James or Claude.
Yeah, one of my requests basically merged last week, but was afterwards reviewed by who was it?
Jeremy Rickard?
Yeah, Jeremy.
Yeah, and someone else as well. And I basically got some post-merge reviews. And apparently there were a couple of things which broke some builds, perhaps. Basically, this ended up as being reverted. And I sent up the pull request again with a few changes as suggested on the previous reviews. But there's a couple of things which have been noted since, which might be interesting. So basically, from what they've also said is that all the images which are being used in all building jobs, they're basically currently hosted on the Kubernetes registries. with the exception of the host process container base image, which we are using for kubeproxy. I did leave a question for Mark as well, or Microsoft folks basically. What exactly is the policy for hosting that kind of image outside of the Microsoft registry? Because as far as I know, there are some restrictions on what exactly can be hosted outside the Microsoft registries. For example, most images which we are building on top of Nano Server images or Windows Server Core images, we are keeping the layers as foreign on the Microsoft side, and we're basically just pushing the new layers on top on any other registry, which is fine. But I think from what they're suggesting is basically having the entire image hosted on the Kubernetes registry. So I'm not exactly sure what exactly is the Microsoft policy in that regard.
For this image in particular, so it doesn't actually have any Windows binaries in it. So it should be completely fine to host in wherever we want. So yeah, like it has like a license file and a couple of blank files that are needed. So there's actually in the GitHub repository where this is built, there's a PowerShell script that builds the base image. So we can either just republish it to like a GCR, like a Kubernetes project image, or possibly even integrate it into the build pipeline there. But this should be completely fine to host wherever we want.
Mhm.
And I think when this came up, I spoke to James offline too, and I think he mentioned that there may be a way to build an equivalent kind of base image just with BuildKit. Is that still the case, or should we just use the image that we already have, James, that's getting published to MCR, and either build the equivalent or push it into GCR? The Kubernetes GCR.
Yeah, I believe the whole reason so I think foreign layers are now included in all the images. Like that's not a thing anymore if you're using the latest images. And so I think the licensing changed around that. And that was all in preparation so that BuildKit could support the being able to build these base layers for Windows. And so I think BuildKit, at least on Windows, can now generate these base layers. I don't know if they can support it on Linux, but I would think that it could. I'm not sure who I think Anthony or somebody along those lines would be the one that would be able to help us with that. So that's one option, and probably the easiest, cleanest way is like use the base image that's built into BuildKit so that we can, and then just layer in the extra files. I think that would be the easiest way. And then the image that we're pushing doesn't require anything external or doesn't require just copy anything over, which then is maintenance on top of that.
Yeah, I think either way, I think we could maybe try that, and if it doesn't work, we'll just either rebuild or republish the base image that we have. At least for now. I think I'd rather see this go in with, even if we have to like mirror an image, and the image is a couple of kilobytes, and then try and figure out the build issues. Like if the build kit like base layer doesn't work, do that later.
I do have another question though. So if I'm not mistaken, an idea is to basically also have the host process container base image also present in the Kubernetes registry, and probably also include the building steps for it. That might be a bit problematic if we are not able to build it on a Linux machine, because pretty much all the pipelines in Kubernetes are based on Linux machines to build all the images. as we've already seen for a lot of test images and other things we've built previously. Not exactly sure if we could have a Windows machine integrated to build the image for this.
Yeah, we don't need one that's built on Linux, right?
At least, yeah, for the script that I have in the repository that's checked in today, that doesn't do anything with Docker. It builds, like, it's just written in PowerShell because that was faster for me, but it just like builds everything on disk and kind of packages up and puts it in there. And that we could either install PowerShell and run PowerShell on like any Linux distro, or just recreate it. That should be fine to do. Pretty straightforward. I don't know about if we use build kit to do that. Will that work on Linux, James?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I think in the short term to move this forward, right? I agree with Mark that maybe we should just build it, or it's already built, right? Like just if it's possible to just copy the image over into the Kubernetes registry, that would at least get Quadu going with this, and then we can later on figure out how to do this, automatically at a regular cadence or something like that. I really don't want us to get blocked on this because we don't have a way to automatically generate the base image.
So there might be two ideas on this side as well. Well, first of all, it also depends on how often we would have to change that image. I would assume it has been changed since the initial implementation, which is why the version changed from, what was it, 0.1.0 to 1.0.0. I assume some changes occurred since then. If that is the case, it would be better to have an automated system to build and publish the image and promote the image from staging registry to the promoted registry or whatever. Because if we would have to rely on someone else to do it for us, from my experience, that is going to be a complete nightmare. Just waiting for someone else to publish the image for us. But again,
image actually hasn't changed. I think when I built it initially, I published it as v0.1.0 just in case we needed to make any and rev the version numbers. And then after we kind of proved it out and built a lot of the other Windows images out of the SIG Windows tools repository based on top of this and kind of validated it, I think I decided to just push a v1.0 to make it more official, and it hasn't, we haven't had to change the base image since then.
Okay, well, I think that's fine then. I don't necessarily want to have an entire image building pipeline for this, specifically if we don't need it. So yeah, I find in that regard. That was my concern, basically.
And I took a look at the script that's used to build it, and it is in PowerShell, but I do see that I do have some comments in there that I forgot about. Like I do different things if it's if it's running in Linux or not. Just call tar a little bit differently and fix paths differently. So this if you install PowerShell on Linux, this can run too, but it should be pretty easy to convert it to just a bash script that does the same thing.
Okay. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it from my side, I guess,
Awesome.
regarding this. Basically, we will have to see how we can have this image be in the Google registry.
I didn't look at all of the comments since from the PR since it kind of got merged. Is that the biggest blocker, or were there other concerns too from?
That was one of the blockers, because technically having an external image is a regression from the Kubernetes building process standpoint. And there were a few other things which would have to be taken care of, since basically after the pull request merged, a few build jobs started failing because of some reasons. We'll have to investigate that as well.
Okay, I'll try and I didn't see that you opened up a new PR to address it yet. I can comment on it and set and point to the where we build the base image. That shouldn't be a blocker.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think.
So do we know how to copy this image over to the Kubernetes registry? I'm assuming we need some access rights and other fun stuff, right? Like,
That's gonna be a bit complicated. I think in the first place, I think we could talk at least with Ben Elder, or I think also maybe who was it, Antonio, and I think someone else, which could technically do it for us. But I think, for the most part, it's gonna be a Googler, which is gonna be able to do it for us, especially if there's someone on call for it.
So yeah, I know in like a lot of the images, especially the ones that live out of the Kubernetes repository, the process is like you build the images out of your repository and push it to a staging repository, and then to actually promote it to the more or less official, like the official Kubernetes repositories, the Kates at what used to be the Kates at GCR.io. You had a post submit, or you had a job that ran in Prow that called this container image promoter tool, and you told it, you gave it the either like the tags of the images that you wanted to promote, and it would copy it out of the staging repository and replicate it to all of the different repositories that were backing the Kates.gcr.io. I forget what the new one is. But we may be able to just make a job that does the image promotion, but say that the staging repository is the MCR job, and that doesn't run, like that runs once per image promotion. If not, we could figure out how to build this image and push it into the staging repository, and then follow the rest of the promotion job, just like we do with the GMSA image and things like that. That could be another path forward.
We
Yeah,
have a precedent. We have a precedent with the GMSA image.
we published the GMSA image to the registry. I think it's registry.kates.io now.
Okay, interesting. Could you also link that one then?
Yep.
I didn't know about the GMSA bit.
Yeah, so there's a cloud build here. And here's I'll just there's a release markdown in there. I'll link to that. That has instructions on how to actually release it. So if you want, you want me to share screen real quick?
I think you can also drop a link, I think.
Yeah, let me drop a link in
Yeah.
the chat real quick. So, yeah, so we have CI in here in this repository where there's a post submit job that runs in Prow every time a new push goes to dev or to master. And then part of the release process is going into the gcr.io/Kates staging, like the staging repository, and manually tagging it in there. And I think all of the SIG Windows leads have access to do that. Then there's instructions here on how to submit use this kpromo tool, which is a tool that's in a Kubernetes repository. I think it's probably release tools. There's directions in there, and you create a PR that does the image promotion, and then when that merges, it runs a bunch of stuff in the background to actually promote it to registry.kates.io.
Okay, interesting. Cool. Now we look at that.
Yeah, so I just mentioned that, Claudio, I think your plan of action now is rather than pinging someone just to try and follow this release process that
Yep.
Mark pinged.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
let's maybe, since it is getting an image that's built out of the SIG like the Kubernetes repository, let's confirm with SIG release that that's the right course of action, is how to do it. Say, like, we don't have a problem with hosting this image in any of the community registries. What's the best way to do this? We could set up our own pipeline to publish this, or would it be possible to just, maybe there's a better way to just mirror it?
Yeah, I think maybe Claudio, best approaches would be to start a thread in SIG testing or something with, pointing at Mark's release process and saying, we want to do this for another image. Do we just follow this, or what's the best way forward? And then we can take it from there.
Sure.
All right, we have 5 minutes left. If there's nothing else about this kubeproxy image, we could move to Mark's topic next, which is about memory pressure eviction.
Yeah, I can give a quick overview, and if we want, we can maybe discuss it more in depth tomorrow. But so do you want me to share? Can I share with the screen?
Yeah, I can stop sharing if you want, Mark. Or
Yeah, let me
do I-
share the screen and then can go over it.
I've
I think-
basically said multiple participants can share simultaneously, so you should be good to share.
Okay. So, as I mentioned in a previous community meeting, I've got memory pressure can folks see that screen? It's just the notes. I've got memory pressure eviction or based eviction working for Windows. Initially, and there's a PR here that implements it where I use the system memory, or like the system reported physical memory, so the in usage versus total system or physical memory, with, I believe, the Windows global memory status EX call to do that. And as I was talking, or like I think in some of the reviews, there were some comments about, oh, do we want to base it off of physical memory? What other alternatives do we have? I reached out to some folks in Microsoft, and I think the guidance was, if we can, try and have it be based off of the commit level. That's actually touched memory, and Windows by default has, paging and does a lot of memory management for you. So I opened up, I modified the implementation here to use a Windows API that I found, this Win32 get performance info call that's on this PS API DLL. And what this gives a little bit of a different view into the system memory. And we can get the commit limit pages and the commit peak, or the commit total pages, and also the page size for that Windows is currently using now, so we can calculate a total amount of, like how much of the Windows memory is committed and in use versus the limit. Now, I think that this is a little bit more accurate of a view of the memory, but as I found out after some more digging, is there's not a good way to get the total, this commit limit, or the commit total is how much of memory the commit memory has been like touched and is used. So this is like your usage for the commit memory. This commit limit is whatever Windows thinks the current total capacity for commit memory is. And I say current because Windows does a lot to manage the page size, like depending on different memory situations. So what this means is this actually grows or shrinks based on how much of the physical memory plus the page is in use. And there isn't a very clear way of asking Windows what the maximum commit limit is, just what the current commit limit is. So what I saw in practice is this does this will hover to be a little bit more than your physical memory. And then as you start to exhaust this, the commit or the physical memory will grow to, and it hovered between like 95 and 98% usage as the commit memory or as the page size grew. And so the commit limit drifted up to whatever the maximum system was. And then after that hit the maximum, then that's when the Windows, like your memory allocator will start returning like fails to malloc calls and say we can't, or the virtual alloc calls and say we can't allocate more virtual memory. And then after processes, like I have an E2E test in here that's based on the test limit that we use to, and after we killed the processes that were doing all of those memory allocations, both the commit and the physical memory kind of drifted down. So one of my questions like to this audience is what do we actually want to use to for that memory pressure eviction signal? I think we can either use the physical memory or the commit memory. I think commit memory is probably would give more of a buffer because it like I don't think we want to like my concern are like in the usage, the physical memory usage kind of drifted up to near, plus 95% for a while, but Windows is definitely still able to like assign and allocate memory because it just allocates more memory out and pages more memory out and grows the page file or the swap size more too. So you can be at near capacity for physical memory and still have your Windows workloads be able to kind of allocate physical memory or just do more virtual memory allocations. But that does mean that you're probably swapping more, which can have its own performance indication, like things based on your disk type and everything like that. But we would trigger a memory pressure signal much earlier on the window, like on physical memory versus the commit memory. So I think we really could do either one as long as we document it a lot. I think either one would be a big win to have that memory pressure signal on be enabled for Windows. One and like the other thing is like I'm a little bit worried that the kind of the ceiling for the commit memory usage is not as deterministic as the physical memory. Like it's pretty easy to say like, okay, your system has 32 gigs when you're using, like however much of your physical memory, like that's what we base the signal on. Because the memory pressure, the eviction signals you can specify in two ways. One is you can say, I want to raise a pressure signal when system usage goes below a certain percentage, or when that signal, like whatever we're measuring with that signal goes below an absolute threshold. So if we say, I want to set up a signal that says alert when commit memory usage goes below 1 GB, let's say, we could hit a case where we'll go below 1 GB, but then we'll just grow the page size and then all of a sudden, without anything changing in the workloads, we'll kind of, fluctuate around that. Go ahead, Arvind.
Yeah, Mark, my question is, what happens if someone sets up their Windows host or their worker node to not have a page file? Because you could do that, right? You could not have a page file. Would still everything would just work if you still go with the commit memory option rather than physical memory?
Yeah. I think in that case, it'll be pretty much tracking you'd have the same behavior as the physical memory.
Yeah, I mean, then it makes perfect sense to just use commit memory. Then it seems like the better option to go with rather than physical memory.
Yeah, I think we'll have to document.
At least that's my vote. I'm not saying we need to do that. I'm just saying that seems like a logical way forward for us.
Okay, yeah, and I think that we'll have to document that and say that there may be some this. Just document what I said. Like the ceiling is going to grow if you have swap enabled, and Windows manages that itself. I think you can tell Windows, say, I want a fixed page size, but it's not recommended to configure it that way. Okay. Does anybody have any concerns with being based on the system commit use like limits? Okay. It doesn't sound like that. I know we're over time, so I'll clean up the PR and kind of open this up and get it re-reviewed by SIG-Node. SIG-Node had done a review based on physical memory, so I don't think all that much is going to change, and then we can discuss in the future if we need to.
Yeah, that makes sense, Mark. We do have one more topic. Am I still sharing, or does that?
Yeah.
think
The Q
okay, all right.
proxy.
We
Yeah.
do have the question about, we do have the topic about CPU/topology manager, which I think is you, James. Do you
Yeah,
want to?
and we can push it to next week. I just
You
wanted
can push it
to
to next week.
bring it up
sounds
so
good.
people knew about it. There's
Okay,
a couple PRs open against it, so.
All right, we will talk about that next week. If there are no other urgent topics, we can bring this meeting to a close and see everybody else on Slack. Bye, folks.
Awesome. Bye now.